On the 13th of February 2023, all of the warnings and projections about Cyclone Gabrielle were about to be tested. The storm was about to make landfall and the whole country was on high alert.
It sure was. Across the whole country we saw devastation from this cyclone. In many parts of the country there is a massive clean-up underway, including this area here in the Tairāwhiti region in Te Karaka.
And with a civil defence director who was only 30 days into the job, he suddenly faced warnings coming through and knew that it was a time to save lives, protect property and make a massive difference. But could they move in time?
I got a bit of a rest about 1 o'clock in the morning. Woke up at 2:30, went to check the river, it was at 11 metres.
And you freaked out at that point?
Yes, so we had the fence guys on hand, and so we quickly developed what we needed to do next because it was evacuation by that time.
So you had to evacuate everybody in the community out of that area?
Yes. So what happened was we discussed the plan. Those families that were along the river, they were the first to be notified. And then we had the fire engine going around just sounding the alarm for people to get out. Yeah, people just heard the alarm and sort of made their way down to the headquarters, just looking for directions on where to go. And we sent them up a hill called Cranswick, just south of Te Karaka. When we evacuated, I think we were the last ones out. We came across a roadblock, so the water was probably, 1 metre to 1.5 metres to get to the hill.
When the river seemed to be right outside the door, I actually got a word in my ear from my son-in-law, who's part of FENS, that the river's outside the door, can we move it faster? In the end, we just said, everyone go, get in your vehicles and go up the hill. I didn't realise how much water was outside the door. So it was kind of scary, stepping out and you're stepping into water up to your knees, and then trying to get your vehicle out of there, and you're trying to open the car door and it's got water against it, and so the well in the front is filling up and you're driving this car across the road to try and get it up as high as you can. Then my husband came and picked me up and drove me back into the school, and I was going, what are you doing? He's worrying about the FENS vehicles that were still there to get them out so that they could be used later. So when he says we were kind of the last ones there, we kind of were.
Along the way, we had to stop and pick up this elderly couple whose car had stopped in the middle of the flood. And so we had I grabbed the old lady out of the car and the guy jumped on the back of our vehicle and we carried on. Yeah, it was just chaos, really. Just rain, like you said, wind, and just people fearing for their lives, basically, and just needed to know where to go. And so, I think we lost a couple of vehicles along the way that were trying to get out past the floodwaters. And we're fortunate that we got majority of the town out that were in the community.
We have a four-wheel drive ute. And I was halfway up the door. And when he stopped to pick up the nan and the papa who was stuck, I was they were in a normal vehicle, and I don't even know how he pulled the door open to get her out, but he did.
The immediate threat to life and limb was over. However, the survivors now returned back to find what was left of their possessions and sifting through the mess that was left behind.
This morning we declared a national emergency for only the third time in our history. Cyclone Gabrielle is the most significant weather event New Zealand has seen this century.
The river came through our place, just gushed through, and I think it just went through so fast.
So how's your house?
Not a house anymore.
Came up in about 1 minute.
the heartache of hearing what they have to share, how they've lost everything. One story, for example, was about a couple and their baby was sitting on the bench top and the stove was just under the water level and they couldn't move all night. So they had to sleep there and wait for some help to come.
And did you lose a lot of stuff?
Everything.
How are you feeling?
Can't feel anything at the moment.
Yeah.
Still trying to wrap our head around it, really.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
The severity and the breadth of the damage that we are seeing has not been experienced in a generation.
We are devastated, sad, but I would say we are fortunate that we are alive.
Just being able to use our phones, so what a relief to be able to call everyone. And they were all panicking and worrying, so all in all we're very lucky.
Pimia Wehi is the Board of Trustees chair for Te Karaka Area School, and yet she suddenly found herself caring for 45 people who had lost their homes, providing food and care, and looking at a restoration timeline that measures in years, not days or months. So I'm here with Pimia. Pimia, can you tell me what's been happening here at this station over the last couple of days?
Well, this is day 6 for us here in our little community of Te Karaka. Pretty devastating, to be honest. We've got 45 whānau who are homeless at the moment. They can no longer return to their homes. So the last 2 days, the village and on the outer villages have come in for a huge clean-up. So we're on day 2 of that. So we've had awesome support from our neighbouring communities. So we're really happy with that. We've been, this is our central hub here in Te Karaka at the area school, and so we're providing the 3 meals. We also have a wellness centre here set up for donations of blankets and clothes, and we've got a food bank here, which is, we've just been really overwhelmed with the response from our communities. We've had Minister of Civil Defence, Kiritapu Allen, visit us about 3 days ago, and the day after that we had the Prime Minister, Chris Hipkins, visit us, and so I guess for us it was a bit of reassurance that the wider communities and in Gisborne and outside of Gisborne had our backs in terms of support. We've had donations of food from our farms. We've actually just returned with power 2 days ago, and so all of the kai that's been coming in has mainly been brought in from our farm and in and around the village.
And what's your water situation like at the moment?
Our water situation is okay. We've had water, but we've also got bottled water and all of that type of water in here. We've got portaloos in here at the moment, but we've also got facilities in our school that we're able to provide showers for our whānau. So at the moment we're okay.
Give people a sense who are watching right now. Are we talking then it's more days, more weeks, more months, more years?
More years. There's been streets around our little community that have been wiped out. And so if you think about that, we're still trying to get to certain homes within our community to help get stuff out of there. We've had building inspectors through in the last 2 to 3 days, yellow sticking and red sticking. Very sad for us. We've lost our 2 local marae, so they've both been red stickered. So those are our hubs. Those are our pre-Cyclone Gabrielle hubs. And so at the moment, Te Karaka Area School is our hub. Our priority is to provide temporary accommodation for our whānau who are displaced. So at the moment, we've got whānau living in and around the school. We're thankful that we have the school and that the school didn't get taken out by the floods, because we probably wouldn't have anywhere to house them at the moment. So we've had a day of where agencies, MSD, Kāinga Ora, IRD have come in to talk to the people this morning in terms of what assistance they can get from those various agencies. We've had skip bins arrive in here. We've had everything happen in the last 48 to 72 hours, so it's been really cool. We're just at the beginning of it. We understand that this is a long road for us. We were one of the communities that were hit back in 1988 during Cyclone Gabrielle, not to this extent, but so we understand how long this road is going to be to recovery for us here as a community. We're just thankful that our community is really resilient and very strong, and that we've all come together.
I continued the conversation with Pimia after the cameras had stopped rolling, just to get a deeper sense of what she and her team were dealing with. And she mentioned how even though they were looking after those families in the school right now, they may still have to say goodbye to them. Many do not have insurance, there's no way to rebuild their home, and so the displacement for these families continues.
It's incredibly sad, because I was talking with Tu, who you would have seen just moments ago, and you could just see in his eyes when I was talking to him, he just looked really lost, and he looked really sad, and it's just heartbreaking to see someone so young with all this devastation around them. It's going to be a long road ahead.
And so when we arrived with the rest of the Shine TV crew, the relief efforts from House of Breakthrough were already well underway.
Yeah, we're going off to a township called Te Karaka. So that was the worst hit area in Gisborne, and flood went through and has washed out or decimated the marae and many homes. So people no houses to go back to. So they need bedding. That's what they've been asking for. Pleaded, could you bring some bedding, some sheets, things like that, because there's nothing out there. We're turning people away because we don't have anything to give. So we've got this to give, so we're taking it out there now.
We know that there is a lot of people in the community who have been displaced from their homes and their families, and so we were able to tie things together, help to tie things together for them, and then just talk about their lives and how they were impacted by the floods, and a hug. That's all we could provide. But we shared to them about God and what He can do, so there's hope, and that's what it's been about too, hope. When all else fails in the food and stuff like that, there's Aroha, eh? And there's love that if we can pour out that, Aroha ki te tangata and Aroha ki te atua, when we can pour that out, oh man, it speaks volumes, eh? It speaks volumes, so yeah.
So Tegan, this is the kitchen in the House of Breakthrough Church, and you've been cooking in here, right?
Yeah, for the last 2-3 days.
You can't live in your house at the moment?
My house is in Hamilton, but I'm staying in Mangapapa, just up the road.
Oh, okay.
Well, now, because the gorge was closed.
Right, gotcha. So you're stranded here?
Yeah, and I'm just a normal volunteer that came for a kai parcel.
Right, and now you're kind of hung around and you're helping out?
Yeah, I thought I'm not doing anything. I would have just been at home doing nothing too.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a phenomenal effort, isn't it? I mean, it's just
definitely
so
people
cool.
helping people.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, good on you for helping out.
Thank you. Yeah, thought I'd better use my time wisely.
Yes, good on you.
When the call went out, the activation of this place as a civil defence centre, what happened? What was your response?
Get here as quick as possible, because that's what we've been trained to do.
Yeah.
Our people needed help, we were available, let's just go and serve.
We've both got a lot of experience in situations like this to help in where we're needed, what we need to do, and we've been taken out, put on the helicopters, put it on the planes, loading it on, and whenever we need it, we get the call, we shoot down there, load up, out there again, or else we've got water.
That's food that's been going to some of the areas that have been, the whole settlements have been underwater.
And so what have you seen from the people who have been coming through here as well?
People coming in here feeling broken, feeling like they just don't know what to do, feeling lost. And our people here are amazing, because but we carry hearts of aroha and love. Many of us know what it's like to be broken and lost, and I think it's always good to remember from where we came from. And we get saved and we learn about the goodness of God and the kindness of God, and so we've been able to share what God has done in our lives, and that's not necessarily by preaching it, but by showing love. And that comes in all kinds of forms, whether it's words of affirmation, whether it's hugs, whether it's just crying with them, laughing with them, just bringing hope, just seeing what the need is and just pouring out of our hearts to them.
Even today, the abundance of aroha, of love for this town has continued to roll in.
It's just amazing. I mean, just moments ago, there was a ute and a trailer packed full of all sorts of things that this community need at the moment. It's incredible to see the church in action, actually, and I just love what House of Breakthrough are doing. It's amazing.
That's right, because while this was going on, House of Breakthrough was open as a registered civil defence centre. That meant displaced people from not just places like Te Karaka, but wider parts of Gisborne were starting to turn up on their door. They were cold, they were wet, they were hungry, but they had more than just physical needs. And this was the conversation we had with Senior Pastor Norm MacLeod.
We didn't know how big it was going to be, so I came down at 8 o'clock at night. So I'm going to stay through the whole day, this whole night. And once all the people came, I just sent out a text, whānau, help. If anyone's out there, we still had comms up at that stage. And within about an hour, our whānau started coming through the door. The stream kept coming and going and coming and going. So for the last 6 days, our guys we've been here doing church every day. The fact that we just, as God tells us, love Him, love each other, treat each other with respect and dignity. So we're just not being any different to people than what we are normally as God's people. But obviously the people coming, they don't know that culture. They haven't felt that sort of sense of dignity and respect. And so their hearts were melting. Some of them were coming really hard, but by the time they left, they were hugging us and saying things like we felt peace, we felt safe, which is the presence of God. In fact, one guy came, he was stranded, he was from the Hokianga. These two Māori brothers walked in, and this fella said, "What's the kaupapa here, bro?" I said, Aroha, bro. Aroha. And that's what we found when we walked in.
Yeah, they've given us a place to sleep, stretchers, and there's been us and I think a couple of others, but I hear that prior to that, like Monday, was really full up.
We did help one of the fellas there who got water through his house, and we just helped him take the furniture out, and I've helped a little bit here. There's plenty of helping hands here.
So we're just being church. We're just loving God and loving people. So church has been 6 days a week.
And so on a practical level, what's been happening here then, since Monday?
So we provide beds, people to sleep here, breakfast, lunch, dinner, just awhi, just talking to them and just helping the fares relieve. There's an old saying, karakia, kōrero and kai, the 3 Ks. So we do that as well. And there's one guy in particular, his house got destroyed by a landslide, just destroyed his house. His family is safe, he got them out. So he came in and he's beside himself, and his sister was asking me if I'd talk to him. So I did the KKK on him, karakia, kōrero and kai, and he just relaxed, and he came back the next day and he said, I want to sew back in, I want to be a volunteer and help. So he said, I received something and I want to give back. So that's been the story of dozens of people they've just come back with food or something because we helped them, or we helped them use our internet, or we gave them some food or gave them some awhi.
One of the things that not just the victims of the flood have experienced, but even say like the civil defence workers have experienced too, is that difference of spirit when they've walked in as well, right? Can you expand on that a bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the government workers, when they came in, they had a list of things they wanted done, and then they saw how we operate, and one of them just screwed up the list and threw it in the rubbish bin. And it's a fluid situation. You just got to treat people as they come and how it flows. We can't just treat them like clients and a number. And they saw the way we were treating people, so they just began to adapt to the culture of heaven, heavenly kingdom culture, and now they love this. And so it's a spiritual. They don't understand what we're talking about, but it's what they're feeling is what we call a Māori, the ahua, the spirit, the presence. It's the spirit of God. And where God, the prophet said, darkness comes, gross darkness on the people, on the land, but when you rise, you will shine. I think when we just rise to do what Jesus would do, we shine that invisible light, that love that pushes back that darkness of fear and anxiety.
They've lost everything, and so to be able to just offer her one of the Red Cross packs that have got things like shampoo and toothbrushes, and also we've got an area out the back that provides, we've got clothes, because our community, man, there's a lot of aroha in our community. Our community have been bringing in clothes and food and all kinds of things, bedding, so we were able to go to the clothes shed and find a number of clothing for her, take her in, have a shower, get her in clean clothes, and then she had a big kind, that just made her feel loved, and it made her feel like I'm being looked after and it's going to be okay. It's going to be all right.
God is not looking for a person, he's looking for a people. And Jesus is the person, and he drew a community of people who in turn with the community of faith, and they impacted their wider community, and it was Christ through their community that impacted their wider community. So I was saying, if we aren't that community of faith that can impact our community, we're wasting space. And I talked about the old WWJD, what would Jesus do? I said, so part of our vision this year is just simply be that community and to do what Jesus would do for when people come. So I just preached out on Sunday night. 24 hours later, we're acting it out. It's not metaphorical, it's actually literal. So we are impacting the community for the glory of God.
On the 13th of February 2023, people saw the worst of what life can throw at them. But now they had also had 6 days of some of the very best of what people can do when they rise together to meet a need and to meet it in the name of Jesus.
And it's just incredible to see the community come together. I was just talking with some of the guys here just yesterday and just saying that, wow, we're meeting our neighbours and we haven't actually met them before. Isn't it amazing that it kind of takes something like this to bring people together? Not to mention the involvement of the church, which honestly, so proud of the church.
And even those who were coming along too, who started the week as displaced peoples, maybe sleeping on a futon on a church floor, suddenly after a few days had been transformed into willing volunteers themselves. They were the ones who were handing out the meals. They were the ones caring for those who had turned up on the doorstep with nowhere else to live. So from what was a very dark experience, there was certainly a light that was shining.
And amazing to hear stories from the church of people that have come in, they've been helped, and then they're like, wow, how do I sign up to this church? What do I need to do? I mean, what an amazing thing, what an amazing outreach. Not that it was supposed to be an outreach, but it's just kind of incredible really, the ongoing effects of something like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And so after 6 days of working so very, very hard, the church came together on a Sunday to come together to reflect, to mourn, and also to give thanks.
So this morning's going to be a service with a bit different, eh? I'm just going to ask some of our whānau to come up and just share where you saw Jesus in the storm. And
just a little thing that happened today, because it's just lovely hearing little stories. But we've actually got enough clothes right now. But this morning I couldn't say no to a 4-year-old boy. He had been watching the news with his mother and he heard that there were such needs and people needed clothes. And he said to his mum, "Mum, pack up all my clothes, I don't need them. And bring them to the House of Breakthrough." So this morning, 2 bags of clothes from a 4-year-old arrived, and I just said, thank you.
To me, I was seeing God in every person. Up the hill, we had nothing, but we had people who were taking our whānau and feeding them with what they had in their car. So there were people who were offering their big diggers and tractors, because no one could get through to Te Karaka. We were blocked off, both sides. So where we were up the hill is where we were staying until the floodwaters could go down a bit. But these people were going into Te Karaka. Our shopkeeper, Sue, she just kept putting food in the bucket of a digger to bring it up to us. We had so many amazing people, and I just praise God for them.
Sunday afternoon, we activated our civil defence team, and so we were set up at Te Karaka Area School as our headquarters. 5 o'clock in the morning, we had to evacuate that. The river rising, and it had come up sort of halfway up trucks, and it just come so quickly. We had to get people out. On the way out, or just out of Te Karaka, there's a hill, and so we managed to get 400 plus people up there and 100 odd other people just on another little rise within Te Karaka, and just had to sit and wait. And our people, they landed or went up the hill to nothing. There's nothing, no shelter, or there was shelter, but no food, no nothing. Just out in the open, waiting for help. We felt pretty gutted because we seen 2 or 3 helicopters flying around. The least they could do was just land and say, "We got you." No one landed. Praise God.
It was an incredible morning. It was a Sunday without a sermon, and yet the gospel was preached. We saw the people who'd been strong for so long suddenly breaking down, but being comforted by their whānau in a moment of real vulnerability.
It was an amazing morning, actually, and I just feel emotional right now reflecting on the whole morning, just hearing from one of the firefighters, one of the first responders, and the emotional toll that it took on him. It was just incredibly heartwarming, I guess, to see the amount of effort that he puts into keeping people safe, and he takes that on board, and it's hard to process.
And then also to hear from Monique as well, to say that in the midst of all of this, she still could see the hand of God at work. God was there in those moments where things felt so hopeless and felt so broken. And so this is not where this story ends. This is in many ways just the beginning. A lot of these communities are looking at multiple years of rebuilding. And the thing that we are hoping for and believing for and praying for is that this continues to be a legacy of the church working with people, through people, to continue to impact lives.